I think it is extraordinary that Mark Carney has become the Prime Minister of Canada. He did a terrible job in Britain.
Broken, Canada's broken, and Canada's broken because we're stupid. Okay? Canada's broken because we're stupid.
How many kids did you molest with Jeffrey Epstein?
More than just elbows.
Oh, yeah.
Gang, what's up? Aaron, Canadian Looney. We've got a very interesting video coming up right here. We've got Vassie Capello's on fire. She's interviewing the House Leader, Stephen MacKinnon. He is one of the worst. He's so obnoxious and creepy and arrogant with these tiny hands. Vassie Capello's is going full blast journalist on his butt. She nails him to the wall a number of times, doesn't let him off the hook, dismisses him. It's interesting. I like this version of Vassie much more than when she's selling out being a hack journalist, because she is a very capable woman when she is on fire. Let's take a peek. Stephen MacKinnon is hard to tolerate. Vassie makes up for it. Let's take a peek.
Hey, that's something everyone can enjoy.
We'll start today with the wild week that was in Ottawa. The Liberals unveiled their first budget of the new mandate Tuesday. Minutes later, a Conservative MP announced he was crossing the floor to join the government caucus. That MP then suggested there were more of his Conservative colleagues who might follow suit. By Thursday, another Conservative MP had a shocking announcement. Not that he was crossing the floor, but that he was resigning his seat entirely. All of that against the backdrop of a high-stakes confidence vote on the budget in the weeks ahead. The Liberals either pass that budget or Canadians could be headed back to the polls. House Leader Steve MacKinnon is stick-handling that effort, I should say, for the government, and he joins me in studio right now. Hi, Minister. Good to see you. Thank you for making the time.
Great to be with you after a very interesting
I was going to
week.
say, I'm glad that you're still here. Okay, you're in charge of negotiations more largely with other parties, and I want to start off on the subject of Chris D'Entremont. Was there any offer of anything in return for him crossing the floor?
Well, I'm not privy to the specific discussions, but I can't imagine that there was.
But you don't know for sure?
I can't imagine that there was.
Are there more coming?
You'd have to ask MPs from the other side of the House. Again, I'm not specifically aware of any movement.
So you as the government House Leader are not involved in any of those negotiations, just to be clear, because I'm asking because the questions to the Prime Minister this week involved him not ruling out that there could be other conversations going on. You're not involved in them?
I hear the same rumors that you do, but I'm not involved in those discussions. No.
Okay, do you think that people who cross the floor should go into a by-election, particularly this close out from an election, a general election?
Well, it's not that's not the way that it's. I mean, obviously these things are rare. They involve a great deal of courage and sacrifice by those who do it, and I say that whether it's at the provincial level or at the federal level, from one party to another. I remember an MP in our first term who got up in the House of Commons one day and announced that she was going to the other side of the House floor. She then became the deputy leader of the Conservative Party. So, these things happen. They are rare. And in the case of Mr. D'Entremont, I've known him for a long time. He's a very principled man.
Do you think, though, Canadians are comfortable with an election 6 months ago and the lack of an opportunity to vote in a by-election? I think back to MPs in 2019 when everyone was going through the Jody Wilson-Raybould and Jane Philpott spectacle. I remember an MP who became a minister, Marco Medicino, saying very specifically, if a member no longer supports the platform they ran on, and that platform was just 6 months ago, the respectful thing to do is seek a new mandate from voters. Do you disagree?
I think that more generally, Vashi, that people did vote 6 months ago, and they don't want to know about another federal election for a little while longer.
Okay, I want to talk about another vote, and that is the one that you are most definitely spearheading around the budget. You said a few weeks ago heading into that budget you did not have the votes. Do you have the votes now?
Well, again, we believe, as I've said all along, that we have a mandate. That mandate is reflected in the budget document that we presented. We do not have a majority. We're a few seats shy. And so we must have the support of other parties in the House. But as you know the same thing I do, is that the public stance of all of these parties is that they all take issue with part or all of the budget. And so we'll have to see when we return on the Monday after this Remembrance Day week where the parties have decided to end up.
Why does it appear that there wasn't a huge amount of consultation or collaboration in advance of the tabling of the budget. Every leader of a party or, House leader of a party whom I've interviewed over the last week indicated that they did not feel that there was any kind of meaningful consultation that led to your government actually incorporating some of the ideas they put forward. And I would say, to substantiate that, every minister over the past week whom I've interviewed about the budget and whether or not there was any flexibility kind of said something similar to you, like, this is our mandate, this is what we presented it. I'm paraphrasing, but like, take it or leave it. Aren't you in a position as a minority government to do more to try and secure support for that budget other than say, here it is?
Well, we believe we have a mandate to put forward this budget, but we also believe that this budget reflects the aspirations and hopes of a number of the members of the opposition. We spoke about, to take my own province in Quebec, we are building port facilities, we're investing in health infrastructure, which was a specific request coming from that province. You can go right across the country. I'm proud to be the transport minister. We're investing in port rail infrastructure right across the country. We think there's broad consensus on those things. This is a growth budget, a community-focused budget. We believe that people who may have voted Conservative or think of voting Conservative, these are concepts that they can support, that they can get behind. It's a budget that's firmly planted in the middle of Canadian politics, a middle that I must say, is expanded somewhat since Mr. Poilievre has taken his party very clearly to the right. But I am specifically aware, Vashi, of the discussions that have occurred. The Prime Minister has met all party leaders, including the Green Party leader, the NDP leader. He asked the Finance Minister to specifically consult with those leaders about specific budget asks that they might have. Ministers have met their critics. I have met with not only my counterpart House leaders, but I've met with MPs from all parties to get them. And I think it's unfair to say that some of their hopes and recommendations aren't reflected in the budget document. I know specifically that they are.
But what you seem to indicate is that the reflection of those interests are most pronounced in infrastructure dollars going to their communities. Like, that isn't all that, just to be fair, a moment, that isn't all that they're asking for. They have different postures, for example, on how much you are spending, what it is best being utilized for, or is it not, and how much you are intending to save. Like, there are different postures on all of that. Is just infrastructure money enough to satisfy the number of Canadians who didn't vote for you?
I spoke about being in the middle. On one hand, you had Mr. Poilievre wanting to deprive the federal government of tens of billions of dollars in revenue and reduce the deficit. You can't do that. He didn't even try and do that in his own platform 6 months ago. On the other hand, you had the Bloc Québécois looking for $36 billion in new spending. So it should be no surprise that we were unable to reconcile the specific and public requests of the Conservative Party and those of the Bloc Québécois. Again, this is a document and a series of measures that find themselves squarely in the middle of Canadian politics. We protect social spending, we protect good skilled trades, union jobs from coast to coast. We also invest in major infrastructure. We invest in growth and jobs and a focus on the economy. That's what this Prime Minister's promise is, and that's what we're determined to do.
I want to ask about that central tenet, because the way in which it was billed by your government, by the Prime Minister, by the Finance Minister during his speech, for example, in the House of Commons, was as generational. He used the term 25 times in that speech, at least 25 times. He also said it would be, and the Prime Minister did, a sea change. It would be transformational. You have utilized two things to foster that economic growth. One is spending on infrastructure. The other is allowing businesses to essentially write off investment should they pursue that. What is transformational, novel, generational about that? I've seen governments do that time and time again.
Well, we've done all of those things, but we've also modified with C5, the Building Canada Act, the method by which projects get approved in this country. And we're seeing, the Prime Minister spoke on Friday about $1 trillion of new investment being generated. That is thousands.
That is make-believe at this point.
Well, it is not.
It's not tangible.
It is not. I'm privy to a number of the big investment proposals coming forward. There are substantial investment proposals in every corner of this country that exist, that the government is working on currently, that will have shovels in the ground in the very near future. So the promise of this budget is that if we look after people, We make lives more affordable for them. Cut their taxes. Cut taxes for first-time home buyers. Put a major effort on building homes using Canadian materials, Canadian labor, and build these major projects that we can get our economy moving and get our trade diversified away from the pull of the United States into new markets and create future prosperity for young people today. Young people today want to know there's a future in this country, an economic future. This budget is about saying to them, yes, there is.
Let me take just two examples that you put forward, though, to counter on how, again, this is going to, as claimed by your government, transform fundamentally the Canadian economy. You mentioned housing. The money allotted to the new agency that you've created is just 60% of what you promised it would be in the platform. When you talk about major projects, there are a ton of energy companies who had thought in this budget there would be a concrete climate plan announced so that they would know what kind of impediments could exist on a more permanent basis that could perhaps impede their ability to develop. The emissions cap is mentioned in here, and there's some, like, you know, sort of broad-based term about how you're going to strengthen the industrial price on carbon, and at some point the emissions cap maybe will go, maybe will stay. Like, there's no clarity whatsoever. Again, how is this budget delivering specifically on what you build it would be?
Embedded in this budget is a climate competitiveness strategy.
It is not. It is one page of broad strokes.
One that reinforces the pricing regime so that polluters continue to pay. One that invests deeply in new technologies, in renewable energy and renewable technologies in this country. And Vashi, with respect to your comment on housing, the housing money is substantial. It's a doubling of our effort. It involves a buy Canadian policy, buy Canadian labor, buy Canadian lumber, buy Canadian steel, and is obviously the first. When you build a platform, it's a 4-year platform. So this is a pretty...
The budget looks out over a period of time. I'm talking about a 5-year horizon.
This is a pretty massive down payment on a very historic effort to build new homes in this country.
My point is not to say you're doing nothing. It's to say you're not doing what you promised you would. You said you'd create certainty, for example, in the economy that would allow companies to invest at a greater rate. Saying that maybe sometime the emissions cap maybe could be or maybe not be removed does not provide that kind of certainty. Saying you're going to invest at a certain level in housing and it will materialize in a certain increase in supply and then not producing on that in the budget is not the same thing as what you said you would do.
I think we're doing exactly what we said we would do. I think that Mr. Carney's promise in the election was build Canada strong, create new export markets, create the trade and transport infrastructure, an effort that I'm very proud to be part of, to be able to send goods to more and different markets, and to create at home a domestic housing market and a domestic economy that young people can find their way in.
I'm going to leave it on that note. I'm out of time. I appreciate your time as always, Minister. Thank you.
It's great to be here.
Gonna wrap it up right there, gang. Good job, Vasi Capello, Stephen MacKinnon. You're repulsive, you're disgusting, you're a creep and a con man selling carnage lies to Canadians. Why are you doing that, bud? We're catching on to you. Some of us knew, we saw you coming. The poor Liberal voters being duped and deceived by legacy media, the Liberal propaganda all the time. It's hard to avoid. The Liberals are so hard to stomach. Anyhow, on a lighter note, Aaron Canadian Looney, like, share, subscribe. Thank you for watching this video. We cover Canadian federal politics. Get yours right here. Everyone has an opinion about Canadian federal politics. Catch you in the next video, gang.